All right, so the Madden stuff is what is being shared all over the internet. The far more damning stuff was about his.
That's not damning.
And I think the more damning. I don't think that was the most damning piece of the article. I thought the most damning piece of the article was an anecdote that the Jets confirmed happened, which was Mike White being frustrated after a game, throwing his helmet, and then Woody saying for people to hear, basically, you should be mad, you suck. And I know Jet fans. Jet fans have made a cottage industry led by their Pied Piper Aaron Rodgers of attacking the great Diana Rossini, and they would love to, I'm sure, attack her on this, except the Jets responded on the record to that accusation with the following: Woody apologized. So I think that one's pretty well confirmed. The other one is, and I don't want to go after, and I'm not going to go after his kids, but because I think one's 18 now and one's 15. They're about maybe 14 and 18, but they're still
19,
kids.
He's fair.
No, but they didn't. But him allowing his sons into the locker room and not recognizing, they're teenagers. They might act like teenagers, and then them acting like teenagers by talking trash about their own players. And at one point after the win on Halloween, when Aaron Rodgers is getting ready to present Ulbrich with the game ball, one of the sons, the 18-year-old, saying, no, Garrett Wilson game ball and holding his own court. That's on Woody. Like, that is Woody's responsibility. And so my biggest takeaway, Brew, was this is, without question, the worst job opening in football.
Yeah.
And they are going to regret rebuffing Bill Belichick's phone call.
That's been out, but I'm just saying the fact that he was interested in
because Bill knew no one else in the NFL evidently wanted to hire him. Like there's no chance they're going to get someone like Ben Johnson. I think there's no chance they get Mike Vrabel.
Agreed.
I think that of all the openings, like the Saints is open and they're in cap hell and it's kind of odd ownership there as well, that's a better job. The Jags might be open. That's a better job. Everything's a better job than this one because you can't overcome incompetent, meddling ownership. And that's what the Jets have.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my biggest takeaways was, and you guys have heard me for years. And some people think I'm crazy when I say the biggest problem with the Dallas Cowboys is Jerry Jones and the ownership.
What about the sunlight?
And I mean, what about
the sunlight?
It's on the board.
What about the sunlight?
Yeah, right. But when your ownership, if it's really involved, sets the culture. And when you have a bad, a meddling owner and the culture is bad, it's tough to overcome. I remember when LeBron James, was his first stint in Cleveland. The year before he ended up going to Miami. But remember, he was going to be a free agent. Everybody was talking about it. And I was talking with LeBron about it, like a private conversation. And he was saying, whatever I do, I'm looking at ownership and the organization. And he talked about how the teams that have won recent championships in the last 10, 20 years all had great organizations. And he was like, organizations win championships. He ends up going to Miami with Pat Riley running the show, and that the rest is history. So ownership is critical, and I agree with you. You can't overcome it no matter who you bring in as GM, coach, and all that. The second thing that struck me from this article, it kind of, and you might not like this, Nick, it kind of took Aaron Rodgers off the hook. I was
going to say that.
Right?
I totally agree.
It said Rodgers didn't want Robert Saleh fired. It said Rodgers actually in the offseason when they were considering other offensive coordinators that he actually made phone calls recruiting some of the offensive. It was Eric Bieniemy. It was four of them. Bieniemy, Arthur Smith, and a few others. And so a lot of this that we put on Aaron Rodgers, at least from this article, seems like it really wasn't on him, which to me going forward is another check mark in the box of, well, maybe I will bring him back. If he's really not running the show and, messing things up like it's been reported and we've thought, then if he plays well, if the players are with him, and I got to pay him $50 million, or at least that's my dead cap hit if I cut him, maybe I don't feel that bad about bringing him back.
If I may, just real quick on the Rodgers point, it did also include that Robert Saleh, the day before he got fired, when he let Rodgers know, I'm going to demote Nat Hackett, and this was confirmation of previously reported stuff, that Rodgers was so upset that Saleh told the staff, get ready, tell Tyrod to get ready because I think Aaron might not play. So you're right, it did make it clear he doesn't have the blood on his hands on Saleh's firing. I don't know if I felt he was necessarily covered in glory in the article, but it's a better.
Yeah. Listen, if anything, Aaron Rodgers deserves the most blame from the perspective of him just going to New York in the first place. And that's actually what Colin Cowherd pointed out at the time, of just him going to New York. It's like, well, was that a smart decision in the first place? You're leaving one highly run franchise, the Green Bay Packers, to something that has been clearly a poorly run franchise. But in terms of once he was there and all the things that he's done, I think Aaron Rodgers has been pretty good in terms of that. And I think this article kind of highlights a lot of that. And I think that's fair. Again, Aaron has obviously not been perfect, but I do agree with Brew that some of these things he's kind of off the hook. But I never really 100% put him on the hook because I didn't think Aaron Rodgers was the reason why Saleh got fired and this or that. And now we have proof of that. And when you think about it, if anything, it ages even better because when you think about what Aaron Rodgers said, I mean, Aaron Rodgers obviously denied and stuff like that, but he didn't go in that hard. When in reality, if you were accused of something like that, like he could have went off and just kept going and going and going, and he didn't. He addressed it. I had nothing to do with it. Stop blaming me, and then he moved on, which shows his own level of maturity. But obviously, there's nothing scarier than a 15-year-old whose parents are just mega wealthy, and not only being mega wealthy but actually owning something substantial like the New York Jets. It's like the Kanye West song, like no man should have all that power. And that is the problem with these things, these types of situations. You have some of these guys, they make so much money and have so much power. Some of it is truly deserved. Some of it is just really being at the right place at the right time. If you've ever been around really successful people or really wealthy people, sometimes it's like clear as day, these guys are brilliant. And they're like, yeah, man, you're doing stuff that I could never imagine doing. Like, I literally lack the capabilities of doing it. And then other times you come across people who are really wealthy and you're just like, you're not that smart, are you? Like, okay, you're really good at law, but like, you don't understand anything else, do you? Like, okay, okay, so you understand tech, and so you worked for this startup or this or that or whatever, or again, you're a lawyer, you work on Wall Street. Like, a lot of people who are like finance bros, they're some of the dumbest people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm not exaggerating. Like, seriously. The fact that they've even made the amount of money that they made is kind of just like, it's uncomfortable because you're like, oh my God. Whereas on the flip side, when you see people who people see as dumb, as blue collar, you talk to them and you're like, wow, that's really smart. You're really insightful. You're this or that. And it's just like, it's just by sheer luck that the job that they do, whether it's like construction or painting houses or whatever, society doesn't monetize that as much as saying, hey, you're going to work in finance, because that's the reality too. The highest paying job is the job that we value more than anything else is not being a doctor, not being a lawyer, not being tech. It's how to make money off of existing money. That's how you make the most money. It's how to make money off of existing money itself. That is what we prioritize in society, and that's why they make just insane amounts of money. And that is just a very specific skill set that also, not to mention, kind of like once you're in the inn, it's kind of becomes easy. That's why the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And so when you have situations with some of these ownerships, it can be really problematic. It can be kind of a disaster. It can be kind of absurd. And I mean, that's what we're getting the front row seat of. And it's, there's a lot of pretending. Anyone who's really worked with bosses, again, it could be white collar, blue collar, it could be whatever. It could be in a wealthy environment, a poor environment. It could be, it doesn't matter. It's just you see a lot of these guys pretending. I mean, there's probably times that you feel it yourself that you're just pretending to know what you're doing. I mean, that's also kind of part of growing up. You kind of realize, oh man, I thought I was going to reach this level in my life where I just knew how to do things. And it's like, I'm still kind of pretending. Like, I still don't really know what is the etiquette. When I'm walking down the grocery store and someone has their cart and they're like standing in the middle of it and looking at it and I'm like trying to get through, like, I still don't know. What is the etiquette? Am I supposed to be like, excuse me? Are you just being rude by like parking in the middle? Like, I don't know. Do I just like, no, like what is the etiquette here? Like what's the story here? We're all just guessing, man. We're all just guessing. And it's scary, though, when you have someone who's guessing on how to be the owner for the New York Jets. And when you do have that power, that's why you hire the people who know more than you. And then you trust those people to make the appropriate decisions, to manage, to do the things that need to be done. And that's obviously not what the Jets are doing and how this franchise is run. And that's where I'm really curious how Jets fans themselves feel. Like, this is my direct question to you. Where do you think it's ownership? Do you think it's just kind of how the team is just run in general? Do you think it's Aaron? Do you think it's coaching? Like, what is the problem? And what do you want to see? Not only what is the problem, but if the problem like is ownership, that's obviously going to be unavoidable, then what is the solution? What do you want to see done, right? That's why it's kind of like it falls on deaf ears when we talk about kind of Jerry Jones being a problem, because Jerry Jones isn't going anywhere. The only time he's going somewhere is unfortunately when he leaves Earth. So it's just like he's not going anywhere. So people say, "Oh, Jerry Jones is the problem." It's like, okay, if he's the problem, but like, is there another solution that we could kind of get to the bottom of? Because it's not going to be like Jerry Jones is going to take a back seat. That's not happening. So what is the solution for this? How do you actually turn this around? That's my question to you all. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the New York Jets? Do you think that they are indeed the most dysfunctional place imaginable? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.